So we're very, very happy to have with us our friends from the Department of Arts and Culture, and particularly our two social cohesion advocates from the Department of Arts and Culture. And so I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves to you. And we also welcome Patrick from the department here, and Dr. Sorote is outside on the phone. Wonderful to have them. And as I said to you this morning, the Department of Arts and Culture is a key partner in this initiative. And they are committed, we just spoke about it outside as well, to make it bigger and better next year.
Born and bred in Mahikeng, social cohesion advocate for a few years, dealing with issues on reggae music, Rastafarian, human rights, using music, planting trees, part of environmental consciousness. So I think that's partly the work I do. I'm an academic laborer or a legal activist at UNISA. I'm on TV and radio at some times, but I don't think this is the face or this is the voice. I think so.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's give Marano a applause.
Good morning. Is it still morning? Yes, it is. Time feels different in Cape Town. My name is Ntlantla Kimgosi. By qualification, I'm a game designer. I'm a software engineer. I work for a really cool company called PVD Software in Joburg. I'm a technologist enthusiast, but I'm also an activist. Some of my interests include working around the role that technology has to play in addressing social issues, particularly education and how we can transform education and make education inclusive to everyone and really, make it work for all of us. But yeah, and I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
And now we're going to ask our panel to briefly, for the sake of our visitors, but also for our sakes, briefly introduce themselves. School, your name, school, and whatever else you want to say.
Okay, so I'm Eastern Kulu. I'm from Gardens Commercial High School in Western Cape Province, and I'm grade 10. I'm 16 years old, and yeah.
I am Stefan Gous. I'm grade 11, 17 years old. And I go to High School Paul Gymnasium. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Apele Zedlani. I'm from Utenik, basically Port Elizabeth, but Utenik. I'm doing grade 11 at Utenik High, and I'm part of so many activities that has to do with socio-economic factors that a bad impact on the environment and also socially.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Keelan Butt. I am 16 years of age. I'm in grade 11. I attend Westville High School in Port Elizabeth, Eastern Cape. Thank you.
Thank you. So, the idea behind this conversation is really to look at, so for the last number of months, all of you have been busy trying to understand and define and express dignity. And we saw at provincial level, how you showcase different things. You are here representing two provinces, and just for the benefit of our advocates, Gauteng missed their flight yesterday, and very sad, but they thought they're flying this morning. So obviously it was impossible to be here. So they would have been here as well. But in the last number of months, you guys have been very busy, just interrogating and trying to make sense of this concept called dignity. And you know how difficult it is to actually come with a specific definition. And so this morning we saw again in our first encounter how differently we look at dignity, how differently we express dignity. So at least we've grappled with the concept of dignity. What this conversation is about is really to now ask ourselves, so now that we have all these, you know, nuances and all these different ideas around dignity, the first question we're going to look at is, so what are the challenges that we face in our sphere of influences, at your school, in your community? What are the challenges that you see, you know, that kind of make dignity difficult for people to attain, to feel it? You know, it's really about how people feel. How dignity is about how you feel about yourself and how other people make you feel. So, let's start with Apelele. What for you are some of the biggest challenges in your school? Let's start there. When it comes to the promotion of dignity.
Okay. It becomes very difficult to promote dignity around. Let me talk about my school. Around my school. My school is based in an area where there's gang violence, where you hear gunshots almost each and every weekend. And now when we hear gunshots, it's just a normal thing for us, you see. So to come to my school, you know, it's very painful to see learners disrespecting teachers. It's very painful when teachers react in a way that is immoral for a teacher to react in. And as we can see in the newspapers, on TV and on radios, they always broadcast about teachers abusing these learners, but they never take note of the factors that are driving these teachers to take such actions. So these students disrespecting these teachers, they want to feel the sense of belonging. They don't take note of the dignity that they are actually degrading of the teachers. They don't take note of how that teacher that is disrespected would actually feel. And now, as a global dignity ambassador, which is me, coming to your peers, appearing in front of the whole school and trying to inform them about this, trying to motivate them and inspire them about global dignity, to have dignity as a person, and to address them that it actually starts with you. That becomes difficult because when you tell your peer, which is the person with at the same age group as yours, when you tell that person, he or she won't take you seriously because it's coming from you, it's not coming from an adult. So that mentality has been living for so many years, and it's still having that bad impact in promoting global dignity. So it becomes a huge challenge. It becomes a huge challenge when you have to change, because they say dignity, global dignity starts with you. The change starts with you. People have to see the change in you first, because you're the ambassador. So now when you come to your friends or the whole school, you're a different person now than you were. You're doing things the right way. You conduct yourself in the right manner, while others are still enjoying their lives. They are there. They are living the ghetto life. You know the right thing, so you do it. And sometimes, I'll be honest, I don't feel the sense of belonging. I feel like going back to that life and mingle with the gents and just chit-chat with the ladies there, and go back to that life where everyone will see me as the cool guy. So sometimes it becomes so difficult like that when you have to be different from others.
Wow, thank you. And I think we might want to explore that a little bit later. You know, how because that's a second question. So I'm glad you raised that as something for us to think about. Thank you very much. Esther, you shared with us very deeply yesterday, and only if you're comfortable. You shared with us your struggle with dignity as somebody who wasn't born in this country. So what are some of the other challenges? If you choose to share that one, great. But maybe also one or two other challenges that you see in your school environment around the concept of promoting dignity.
Okay, well, firstly at my school we have core values, and honestly I'm very grateful for that. Because of those core values, at school they don't look at me like a foreigner. They don't look at me like she's not a South African. They look at me like she's a girl, she deserves to be respected, she's a Gardens commercial child, we are family, you know. And the only problem that we have at our school is that the children are becoming lazy in terms of, you know, participating and making an effort and practicing what dignity is. And then again, it's a matter of encouraging them, because I was also once there. I was like, why should I do it if somebody else can do it, you know? But then because of those core values that we got at school, and because of teachers that come to you and be like, I see this potential in you, why don't you, you know, shine it out, you know, be you. Yes, you're going to be criticized about it. Yes, you're going to, you know, be judged about it. But look at the bigger picture. And that's something, you know, we need to start looking at. Look at the bigger picture instead of focusing on the negative things. And another thing is that at my school, yes, there are, you know, we hear about xenophobic attacks and all of these things. They will take marches in Cape Town. My school is in town. They will take marches around the parliament or whatever. But at my school, I feel totally safe. Nobody has ever, you know, made me feel like I don't fit in. They've never, you know, taken those actions that their parents or their family members are doing out there, you know, to scare us off. They've never brought that to me, and I'm very grateful for that. So I just feel like more schools should be like have core values, and then also, you know, make the learners understand the benefits of, you know, being a dignified person and giving dignity. Because what's the point of knowing what that is, but you don't know the benefits? It's like, okay, you should go there, but you don't know they give you the directions to go there, but you don't know why you're going there. You see, so we need to take that into consideration.
Thank you. I like that. How people understand the benefits. You know, through the ages when we were at school, and I'm sure you do it as well. People asking, why do I need this? Am I going to use this? You know, and maybe one of the things, as you say, is that the benefits are not sold to us. You know, so thank you for that. Kiran, you are from a school in a pretty decent area. What are some of the issues in your school that kind of, because you see, this is not a question of decent or not decent, you know, high earning or low earning, middle class or working class. Dignity is a leveler. It's something we all need. But in your particular school, what are some of the challenges that you think that school is facing?
Okay, so my school is situated in the northern areas. So everyone that hears about the northern areas will assume that, or well, not assume, they will know that there is gang violence and there is a lot of police raids. It gets kind of messy sometimes. But I think that the challenges that we face at our schools is the fact that our students feel the need to belong in an environment like that. They feel the need to want to be like that because they don't have alternative choices.
they feel that the only way they can maybe provide for their families is if they have to belong to something, the sense of belonging. And opportunities like this Global Dignity campaign aren't put out to them because sometimes we find those rebellious students and then we're like, no, we mustn't put that person there. But sometimes it's opportunities like this that need to be brought out to students like that so that they can be exposed to all the so that they can be exposed to different opportunities that are out there, so that they can see that this life that you're living, it's not the way you're supposed to be. There are better things out there. And I also think that the challenges that we face at our school is trying to reach out to them, because you are raised a certain way, you are told you must act like this, be like this, and when you try to tell them more about how the ethical way of living is, it's kind of hard to reach out to them. So I think those are the few challenges that we face at our school.
Thank you. And you're bringing into that dimension that I think, is worth thinking about. This is not for the good kids, because sometimes we can make that mistake. It's for the kids who are well behaved. This is for everybody. And particularly the learners who might have problems fitting in or expressing what it is they feel in a productive and a positive manner. So I want us to just bear that in mind as we go forward, that this is something that should be for everybody. We have represented in the room people from very different backgrounds. But I was speaking to some colleagues earlier, and one of the things that we were hoping would come out is that we would also talk about dignity in terms of really, really hardcore survival issues. Somebody on the street, somebody who's addicted to whatever, somebody who's completely marginalized, because, what about the dignity of those people? So dignity isn't just this warm, fuzzy thing. It's also about, confronting the harsh realities that some people feel, because dignity for them is almost an impossibility. To live a dignified life is an impossibility because of circumstances. So I like where we're going with this, that it's not just about the kids who fit in. Coming to this thing shouldn't be a reward for being good. Coming to something like this should be about confronting ourselves and confronting the issues that we face. I love that, Karen. Thank you. Stefan, you shared with us that you relocated 2 years ago from KZN to the Western Cape. And so in a way, you're a bit less biased than some of the others who've been at your school since forever. But just share with us, in your environment, what are some of the issues that you face?
Well, I think one of the big things is that at my school, there are many, very, very talented people. For example, there are sport kids that go to national and international rounds. We had a few athletes that went to some of the junior Olympic games, and I mean, those are very high achievements. And I think a lot of times, the people doesn't achieve that. People who are just trying to be normal learners, who want to study and just work for their goal in their future, sometimes feel they're not worthy enough to be in the school where some of these other kids have such outstanding achievements. And I think it also builds a bit of pride of those learners actually achieving such high achievements. And the thing is to bring balance between all the different kind of learners. For example, I'm not a international athlete or anything, so if I go to one of the athletes and I try to talk about dignity and hey, we are equal, and just bring my perspective onto them, they're not going to expect too much from me, because I'm just someone there with not as high achievements as they would expect something like that from an adult, or someone, I can say, who looks more important. And I think for students to go on and actually try to make committees, for example, a dignity campaign at our school. If we can get more people just to stand like that, more people like to keep their feet on the ground and realize, well, it doesn't matter if you're an international athlete or you're just someone who started playing his first instrument. People are still people. Learners are learners. We're on school. We're the same age. We're still growing. We haven't seen the real life out there yet after school and everything. And it's all just these little stuff that's going to build their characters for after school. I mean, it's I give it to the learners who get those high achievements and the people who actually achieve those kind of things. But instead of using it to be praised on school, I think we should work on a system to use it as education, to prepare people for what lies after school, to know how to make it part of your daily life, to use it to get discipline and self-respect, and to share it with others. I mean, for maybe the higher athletes to see a younger athlete who has potential, and maybe go to him and try to pull him up, maybe ask him to go train together, and so you actually build dignity in the lower athletes. I mean, he sees this huge athlete coming to him, asking him if he wants to join him with training. And I think that is the main thing of it all. If you reach a high achievement, it shouldn't be your pride and it shouldn't be your rights to go and brag about it. You should use that to help on people that still haven't achieved that yet and help them to get the same achievements. And I think that's the key to bring balance into different type of learners at a school, people who do sports, people who has cultural activities, and even people who are very good at academics, to bring the balance between those different type of categories to, so one part don't feel more important or less important than the others.
Thank you, Stefan. So fascinating, because I hear a number of things here, but two things stand out for me. The one is that sometimes, because of the way the world operates, the high achievers, whether it's in sport or whatever, they are elevated by our society. And that happens at schools, Somebody makes essays, schools, for rugby, it's a big deal, and rightly so, because it's an achievement. But, what I hear is that one of the unintended consequences could be that you're creating a hierarchy, and some people feel more important than other people. So that's the one thing I hear, and I think it's a useful thing to take note of. The second thing I hear from you is that one should actually try and help the high achievers to come alongside other people, because they are being looked up anyway. I mean, it is what it is. If somebody at your school, has essays, everybody will look up to them anyway. Okay, so already they have that esteem. And what I hear from you is that why don't we encourage those people to come alongside somebody else, and so you do a number of things there. You not only helping somebody achieve more, but you're also doing something psychological where that person feels, wow, this guy's interested in me. I only played 15, but he says to me, he saw my pass and he likes that. And I like that, the fact that, we're talking about the real issues in our schools, and it's different from different schools. So for now, I'm going to ask the advocates just to hang, because I want them to comment after the second question, because then we'll get a sense of what the young people think about it. So we've now started talking about some of the challenges, and there are many other challenges facing young people in our schools, in our communities. And I like the honesty, Apelele, you say, it's hard. It's hard. Because you remain a 17-year-old, and the nature of a 17-year-old is you want to be liked, you want to be, so I get that, and that's important also for us to be honest, because we don't want you to leave here feeling you now have to be very serious in a school because you are now Global Dignity Ambassador. No, be yourself, but it's about choices. It's about the choices. And some of those choices are very, very hard, and we get that. So the question now is, so what is it, and here I'm going to ask you to also start talking to us. What do you think, you've now heard some of these challenges, what do you think are some of the things we can do to address those challenges? And maybe there's another challenge that you want to raise, but remember in this part of the discussion we're talking about how we can address it. Okay? So Ray, if you have a challenge, tell us what it is, but let's start talking about, so what are some of the practical ways? Not talking about high, wonderful ideals, 10-point plan, and all. No. Practically. Okay, how can we address this? Come on. Okay, I see your hand there. And then anybody else? Yeah, so those will be the first two.
I think it will start with awareness, like maybe put up some more posters at school and explain what dignity is about. Maybe in assembly someone could speak what dignity. I feel like at school, like a lot of learners wouldn't pay attention. Like most of the time, like Stefan said, it's sport. They only pay attention when it's sports. I feel like we really need to touch on the subject more seriously and start a campaign at school. Maybe some of us, we could all like start a campaign at each school. Because I feel like a lot of people start at our school personally. At our school, there's a lot of campaigns. And people are just in campaigns to be in campaigns to have like a bulky, for example. And I feel like we should really like do a change and make a change in a lot of people's lives and speak about this more seriously.
Thank you.
I feel like we should start making it like a topic of conversation, you know, because the thing is, like, we can put up posters, we can do that because we've done that in our school, you know. And some kids, they're just looking at the poster and it's just like walking by, you know, because they still don't have an understanding of what dignity is. They look at the words that are dignity, you know, so I think like just start being a topic of conversation between us as kids and start like talking to people about it, you know. It's like, and like when we go away from this experience, it's not like more informing people about it, and maybe like even like posting it on social media sites, like start making it like a topic, like this is an important thing, you know. It's not just some other thing that I just read into. It's like something that you can take with you for the rest of your life.
Fantastic. So that's wonderful. Any other? Yes. And then
I would like to touch on the point of the assembly part. I think we should give more examples on what on how to treat someone with dignity, how to do that, and what are some of the ways that we are treating people without dignity. Like we could have maybe short plays or short examples on stage so people can know what they're doing. Because some people aren't even aware of the way that they treat people or the language they use with people. And I think if we put it out there so everyone can see this is wrong and this is right, and then maybe they'll have a better idea of it.
Wonderful, like that.
Yeah, and just what they say. In my school, because recently, since I'm in the arts here, we had a meeting and we were trying to find out a way to boost the school average mark and the learners' marks to do better and stuff. And then we realized that when we talk to each other, when the teacher talks, we don't interact much. But when our peers explain it to us, and then we understand more and stuff, and that really happens a lot in our school. So in my school, just what he said, making it a conversation by talking, just like other people, hey friend, let's talk about this and stuff. Or when they come to you with a problem, then you just bring up a topic, say, you know what, dignity and that, just explain it to them. And I think we learn so much from each other as teenagers. So making it a conversation is a great idea.
Fantastic. And Gardens Commercial High School, for those of you who don't know, they have probably one of the most beautiful playgrounds because their playground is the botanical gardens. So often when I walk to town, by the way, our offices are right opposite their school, so we watch them closely. But sometimes when I take a walk in the gardens and I see them, and she's right, I often see kids in huddles. I don't know what they talk about, but now I have an idea. But yeah, I mean, there is nothing like having uncomplicated conversations about something. Thank you. Okay, so lovely. Now we get two teachers involved as well, so I'll take you and then I'll come to you.
From a teacher's perspective, what the learners were talking about, how students behave in a way to be noticed and to belong in a group. And I feel that a lot of that happens because they don't have a very good sense of self. Our young people don't have a good self-awareness. Many adults don't have self-awareness. We live very unconsciously. So as an educator, I'm very aware that a big part of my role is to develop self-awareness in my students. And we can do that with any subject that we are teaching. And I think if we can teach our learners to understand who they are and what their priorities and what their values are, it becomes easier for them to act as individuals and not as part of a group. And a big part of that for the students is to get involved in as many things as possible at school. I always tell my students that school is the opportunity where you can be involved and see where your talents lie, see where your interests and your values lie, and start developing who you are as a person so you don't just become a mold of what society, your particular society, is telling you you should be. Because that develops confidence, and the confidence to be able to stand up and say, I'm not going to follow that crowd. I'm going to do what I believe is the right thing to do. So self-awareness, I think, very important.
Thank you.
I think, but I can just use my school as an example of gardens, right? What we found as teachers, you can't speak to the children on that level because they feel like you're preaching to them. It's feeling like you're forcing them to do things that they shouldn't. Three good closing case for you. As teachers, we have a thing called bow guarding. What we do is we start with one thing and then you stream it into something else. So what we try to do is we try to find a commonality, fun thing without them even realizing what the destination is going to be. So like last night when everybody started being friends with each other and going on, you can actually stream it then in whichever direction you want to. Because what they then discover is not the differences, but they now have that commonality. I don't know if that makes sense. So that's what we are trying to do at our school. And I know Esther, she had this conversation with me yesterday, she's not sure what the principal is doing and stuff. We have this thing, positive discipline, restorative justice. We're trying to move the kids away from seeing the differences and just, first of all, getting the commonality. And then I think that would be an easier way to start talking about dignity and stuff, because like Esther said, that she feels comfortable where she is. That's our goal.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to ask our two ambassadors, our advocates, to just share with us, just some observations of what you've just experienced, but also from your experience. And particularly with young people, because this is the topic for us today.
Was it last week Monday? I gave a talk at a tech conference called LinuxConf, which spoke about what we call open source or the open source community. Now this refers to a community of engineers and developers that collaborate in order to build things. And while sitting here and listening to all of you speak, it really brought me back to a core part of the discussion that we had there. See, many years ago, mathematicians discovered a field of maths called fractals. How many of us here know what fractals are? Cool. One person. Now, fractals are a really interesting part of maths that basically say that if you take a triangle and you divide it into smaller triangles inside, you can do that an infinite number of times and the shape will look identical, regardless of how much you zoom into the triangle. Mathematicians then realize that if you do the same thing with a line, if you keep bending the line to make it smaller and smaller and smaller, the shape will get smaller, but the overall length will get bigger. And they said, how can something get smaller, but the length tends to infinity? They said, this is useless maths. and it has no practical applications, and they put it to the back of mathematical textbooks. Now, the interesting thing is that the words that they said, saying that this is useless math, they were breathing these words with fractal lungs. Because we then later realized that fractal mathematics is the core of nature. If you look at patterns on leaves, if you look at organs in our bodies, if you do this between these two fingers, well, your thumb and your index finger, the patterns that you're seeing over there, those are fractal patterns. And what you're starting to see as scientists and engineers is that the closer we try to mimic nature, the more incredible the creations that we create. Now, a mathematician by the name of Ron Iglash studied fractal mathematics for years. And then a friend of his was looking at some like top pictures of a number of villages across the African continent. And he happened to be walking past his desk and said, "What are you looking at?" These pictures of towns that were taken by planes or satellite or whatever. And then Ron Eglash realized that all of these villages, or a number of them, were designed using fractal patterns. He said, "Why are there fractal patterns in these villages?" I don't know. So he then got a scholarship to travel Africa to go and ask people, why are you building your villages in fractal patterns? And of course, people said, what are you talking about? And then what he realized is that a number of these villages built these really, really intricate designs as a mode of either survival or spiritual belief. And this then speaks to how we've transferred knowledge across the continent before. We didn't have books for the most part. Those that we did have were burnt or destroyed or whatever cause. But the action of storytelling and the action of really entrenching this knowledge into our beliefs and how we live day by day is how this knowledge went on for years and years and years. Now, they built these villages because this is how we build. This is the best way to go about building it. Now, on the same trip, he found a village, I think it was around central Western Africa, where to become a priest, you have to demonstrate to the village that you can draw this pattern quickly in the sand. And he looked at this pattern and said, how are you getting these answers? They said, we can't tell you because you're not one of us. And after he explained his interest, someone showed him how you actually do this. He then realized that what they were doing is something we called bit parity matching. How many of you have cell phones in your pockets right now? Cool. And I'm guessing that most of you have social media, most of you watch the TV, listen to radio, use some sort of technology. All of this digital technology is based on something we call binary. Now, Ron Eglash realized, or when he learned about the history of binary, he realized that that same technology, that same form of understanding of knowledge was then moved to, I think, by Arab people from Africa to the Arab states, ended up in Europe and the Americas, and that developed into binary arithmetic, and so we have computers today. See, I'm telling you this because someone mentioned about understanding the benefits that we get when we speak about dignity and collaboration. But that's exactly it. We wouldn't have the technology that we have today. We wouldn't have all these things that we love if we didn't have a collaboration of different people that see things differently. You use this thing in one particular way, but I've got different problems, and I can see how I can use this to benefit me in my different situation. Someone spoke about how sports is taken much more seriously in their schools. And immediately I thought about the community that I exist in, the engineering community. And we have problems within the different communities that we have in. As engineers, we somewhat create a very toxic environment in that we look down on people who don't have high accolades or high achievements, such as, what have you built recently? What were your marks at varsity? And what we're doing is we're creating an environment that doesn't allow people to express themselves and learn. So what's happening within the South African community internally is we're starting discussions about how we are making our environment better within engineers or amongst engineers. Because you can do the exact same thing in your school and say, within the rugby team, within the soccer team, what are the problems that you're facing within the first team itself? You'll find that a number of the players on that first team themselves don't feel dignified. They don't feel like they belong in the team because of one or two people. And more often than not, those people don't even realize that they're making people feel uncomfortable. And once you start having that conversation amongst people who see each other as peers, that's how you start getting them to realize that this is a bigger societal issue. And once you get that rugby team or that soccer team or that cricket team to start having that conversation amongst themselves, it will almost naturally spill out into the rest of the school. Now, I'm telling you this because from what I'm hearing here, you all understand the problems that you're facing in your schools, and I think you're all well equipped to identify further problems. But I think the way that you approach those solutions needs to start in the separate corners. Because once you, and I really love the fact that you captured it yourself, that when a teacher speaks, we see it as we're being, told what to do. And this, again, takes me back to when I was in high school many years ago. I think I was in grade 10 about almost 10 years ago now, geez. And I was a really, really bad student because I wouldn't study. But in order to pass, I would hold tutoring classes where I would offer to help people during lunchtime. And what I would do is I'd walk into that class and ask people, how about you all tell me what you know about this thing? They would all tell me, and as they're speaking, I'm learning. I'm like, oh, okay, I see. And then I'd start writing stuff down on the board, right? And that's how I studied, because when I got home, I either went and played soccer or just took a nap, right? And that was my way of trying to study at the very last minute. But what I understood from there is the power of engaging with my peers and the power that comes from all of us sharing our pools of knowledge. Because we can read the exact same text, we can see the same tweet, we can watch the same video, and we can understand completely different things. Or we can see different things as being important. And it's only when we start collaborating and putting together our different knowledges that we can actually get the maximum value outside of that. So I think answering the question of how you should start addressing these issues, I think you need to get more of your peers involved. As it has already been said, this shouldn't be a reward for being a good student. I mean, I'm pretty sure I was never a good student, right? But this should be a means of getting your peers to understand the different issues. Because it's not just you are now a better human being. These are things that exist in every single sphere of life. As I said, you've got doctors amongst themselves are starting to have this conversation of how they are making their own field toxic for other doctors. These are things that have to be discussed in every single sphere of life. Even your teachers themselves, they'll tell you. There are politics within the staff room. And these are conversations that they are, fortunately enough, they are in a fortunate position to be seeing it within their students. So I think they're probably the best positioned people to start addressing it for themselves. But then it's now your responsibility to go and address it with your peers as well. Thank you.
Where did it all go wrong, and who violated a human being's dignity? Because from dignity, you can't use the word dignity if we don't use it in our languages, first of all. If we say it's Sitokeng, Siritiking, Isdima, Istunzi, if we don't use the word dignity in our languages, in our own schools, townships, then it is meaningless. People are Habana Baruka. There will be nobody who can pick up. And if you don't live it, because experience that I have in the schools and even sometimes being, because I think the other aspect in the school, the issue of dignity must be under human rights context. It must be under life orientation. But I don't understand. If a person is walking in the night, you will see that there is a shadow. That shadow is your dignity, is how you measure your dignity on a daily life. So I become strange when I find young people here after saying that in our own township there's violence. But in the schools, you ask yourself then, what is then the role of the schools? That the same schools that the same gangsters came from are the ones who are now vandalizing and harassing. But now social cohesion for the past 25 years in this country, the challenge that we had was that there was denialism, that some other people were equal and others were not equal. You see, like you are saying, you are here as an ambassador, but you are here even to share experiences, but at the same time give us the path. Because South Africa for the past 25 years, what it has been going through, it has been not a good riding or a good comfort. It has been living like you are living in hell when you think you are in paradise. In the sense that townships, people, when they don't have water, if you stay in a township and there's no water, you must be saying, but Botobokai, where is dignity? If the grain is our elderly people, our senior citizens, we don't respect them in all aspects, forget. That's how the dignity starts. And that's why I think social cohesion and nation building got affected, because people thought it was a political campaign around politicians. But actually, social cohesion and dignity in the schools, it is within environment, like nature. Many schools are dirty now, Stan. But young people, when they go to school in the morning, they're all neat. You see the way you are neat. But you go to your school, there are plastics around. And I'm talking about all schools. I don't want to say private or even public. So your dignity starts from environment. It comes into the class, the way you speak. And we will want to skumshe all the time, all the time. You know, we need to learn languages. Young people who are here, who are English-speaking English and Africans, you need to pull up your socks. It's high time you need to know the language of the people of the soil. Because if you don't pick up, and even Swahili, like I was saying to you, the word dignity is in all languages, actually. Even European languages. So I don't want us to see it in the sense that under social cohesion, we just want to talk about good things. Constitution is there. That says it's human dignity. Now you say global, but the other one say, but what is local and local dignity? If you say global dignity, the other say, but it's local and local. What is local and what is local? It is indigenous, it is Esintwin, it is Mobatong, it is from the soil. So I think when you look at nation building, Constitution of South Africa, it is, I don't know if you know, it's in the 19th Amendment or 20th. People think for our Constitution of 1996, it is stagnant. No. Every year there's an amendment. But in the schools, you look at your responsibilities, a bill of responsibilities. How long has that bill been in the schools? If we can pose that question to the teachers. Because the same question of global dignity is there in the schools, where you look at the global human rights culture from Africa to Europe. Hence today, if you think of a woman like Charlotte Maxeke, who passed on today in 1939, on the 16th of October, a mother of black freedom. Charlotte Maxeke and many more who fought. Then they say, we are not going to carry Dompas, we are not going to carry the pass law, the birth certificate. That's how dignity was affected, that Mnyama was forced to carry a document wherever he goes. Are we doing the same now with our African brothers and sisters? Where is your passport? Where is your work permit? Where is your study permit? So we lose it even from our laws of the country, that we don't look at dignity from the sense of, it started even during the regulation of movement of people. So you can't regulate dignity, you can't cage dignity, it's within the person. So it is important as young people in the schools that whether you are in the student representative council, make sure that in your value system, your issue of greetings, very important in the school to greet everyone. Whether it's your friend or not your friend, whether it's a cleaner or it's a person who does the garden, very important to greet a person. Because I think that's how we build a nation. And greetings in different languages, very important as well. So I think that's where then I will pick up the issues of how the young people feel about the gang violence at their schools, and how they feel that they want to say, as ambassador, I can say more than the word dignity, but what programs can we use? Because I think in this country what we lack, it is no longer to conceptualize. We don't need people who are coming to philosophize, theorize, imagine and dreaming. President talks about dreaming, but others will say, in the dream you might find a nightmare. So don't dream. Vision. Always see a vision. See from far. They say, a last proverb that I'm closing with, they say a young person when he's sitting, he thinks he can walk fast. But who knows the path and the destination? is an elder, not a young person. So young people, if you think you know this route and you're in the 21st century, understand that the elders are the ones who know the path and the destination. And the elders are your peers as well, as somebody was raising the issue of the peers. The peers are your schools from the townships that you must interact with on a daily basis. And I think that's where social cohesion came with the young patriots. And we think every province must develop a program on the young patriots of beyond South Africa. Because what happened in the previous months in Gauteng and other regions of black-on-black violence, dignity was affected, the human dignity of people. People were shaken, and the use of the social media again was misused, abused by many people. And that's how dignity was affected, because it took on emotions of people when they were on a social media, getting old videos as if it was a new videos. So very important as young people, as you are on your gadgets, as like you are saying, me and like you are both coming from opposite directions on technology. I'm not anti, but I'm saying African indigenous values must be part of our global dignity messaging. And even the elders, let's put the elders in some of our engagement when we are doing this spring school, to bring the elders to share experiences, because they are the living heritage and the living history. And if we don't put the elders here, then we can't learn it from anywhere else, unless we are late. Nyabonga. That's why you are here, indeed.
Thank you so much. So, you know, I mean, we can carry on wherever this discussion. Just write one thing that you're going to do, practical things, okay? I don't want you to say, you know, I'm going to just think better of people. No. Practical thing that you commit to when you go back. So we spoke about the popcorn method. The popcorn method simply says, pop when you're hot. That's the only time a popcorn will pop. Okay, so who's gonna start? See here. Oh, okay. So let me first light this. So the light is burning. Because dignity is a flame within each one of us.
I commit to practicing to live a dignified life and to inspire others to follow me in my path.
I commit myself to make a change within myself and around me. Hashtag dare to be different. Thank you. Oh, it's not long. Okay, it's on.
Stand out.
Thank you so much.
I commit to acting in a more dignified manner so I can be an example to others.
I commit myself to not only spreading the word dignity to my peers and family, but to show them the power of human dignity. Thank you.
I commit that I'm going to use the opinions and the problems of the world that was brought here today to this campaign and take the solutions out to the world.
Oh. The change I will bring is that firstly I will brief my street and school peers about what dignity is, but not just telling them, but mostly I would live a dignified life and be more in the action and spread the word.
I have already committed myself to going around the schools in my hood, performing for them, and helping out in organization in handing out sanitary pads to girls. I just never knew it was a way of promoting global dignity. So since the beginning of this year, I've committed myself to that.
I'm going to create a dignity committee and encourage other people that is adored to set an example and to show other people that what big impact it can have and what it means.
I am committed to make a change in my lifestyle and to live dignity throughout and educate others about my journey at Robben Island.
I commit to changing myself for the better and being an inspiration for others, that my voice makes a difference.
I am going to step up and do what I learned, tell people about dignity and show people dignity. I want to start over with myself. I am going to tell people about dignity and show people dignity. I believe my music is going to speak for me.
I will greet as many people as I can. I will use my position wherever I am to inspire others and let them know that anyone deserves a dignified life.
I commit to tell my classmates what I have learned.
I commit to waking up every morning and say whatever I say today will make someone smile, and say I will learn something now by listening because my warm smile made you feel welcomed.
I commit to resisting the urge to point out others' mistakes and work towards encouraging and helping others rather than putting them down.
I commit to talk to people about dignity, to share with them what I learned here, and also to start living dignity in a practical way. For example, greeting them with a smile and by their name, and hopefully, when I have the ability to, in their own language. There you go.
I will make dignity a topic in conversations with the people around me.
Okay, I'm going to start myself by paying more attention to my schoolwork and trying to understand the teachers better, greet people more and try and help the kids in my environment that don't understand anything about dignity. And then I'm going to start writing more plays about dignity so that the kids at school can understand what it also means.
I commit to myself to live a dignified life with compassion, integrity, and dignity.
commit to telling my friends and family about my Dignity campaign journey, and I will do my best to live a dignified life.
I commit to make sure people know that they are worthy of respect, treat people well, and understand them.
I commit myself to live the meaning of my name, to be a star, to shine upon others when days are dark, and to be positive, to encourage people to accept themselves, and also to practice love by loving myself and showing them how you can love yourself, and the power of loving yourself is something important.
So I would like all the learners to stand. I will deal with the adults in a minute, but it's not your time now. I'd like all of us who are sitting or who are not learners to please give these learners a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much. So what I'm going to ask you is you can douse your flame, but I want you to take this home with you as a reminder. And I want you to not just leave it as empty as this. We must thank Nicola for starting the process of decorating this candle. Isn't it beautiful? Let's give Nicola a round of applause. Put on there what reminds you of these 2 days. You know, whether it's a drawing, whatever it is, whether you want to write something, and then keep it in a place where you can see it, and it will remind you of these 2 days, but particularly of the commitment that you've made now. You may extinguish your flame. And please have a seat. You know, we live in a society where adults don't always make commitments to young people. And so, no pressure on the adults, but you are making a commitment in front of these young people. And so I'm not going to ask you in fact, we're not going to give you a badge, but we'd like to hear the commitment and we would like your candidate.
I'll go first because I still find being called an adult weird. I'm also still a student, so it's a bit weird. So I have the privilege of having to engage with all sorts of people, both as a social cohesion advocate, but also as my work, as a key part of my work. And one of the things that I've really done badly is keep time. And the Department of Arts and Culture can attest to this. I'm always giving them a headache and I miss flights and all sorts of things. So my personal commitment is to try and be at least 30 minutes early for everything, because respecting someone's time is really part of respecting their dignity. So my commitment is to make sure that I'm at least 30 minutes early for everything, including all my classes. If my lecturers were here, they would be clapping really, really, really hard.
I'm going to commit to really listen to understand rather than imposing my perspective on others, so that I can encourage my learners to show me their authentic selves, to be real when they're with me.
As a teacher, I want to shift my focus in class from achievement or success to how I make students feel. If they feel good about themselves and their work, success and better or higher achievement should or could be the natural result.
I decided to commit myself to have a dignity society at our school so that we can spread the dignity love.
I think it's a little bit unfair because I've already started with my thing, like, you know,
that I've already started working it into my curriculum for next year.
I think in law we say from committing we recommit. I will recommit to decolonize Africa through media, education, and social cohesion. So that's why I say from commitment you go to recommitment. So you need to recommit in some point. Thank you.
As a district official, you're probably in a favorable position to get to more schools. And although I'm in the twilight, I think that's one of the last things I want.
Learners, I would like you to salute these adults for the commitments they've made. All good things come to an end. And you know, we obviously have to make sure that the Eastern Cape people get to board their boat on time. And so I want to just end up by thanking you from the bottom of my substantially younger heart than the body. I shared with one or two of you that 12 and a half years ago I had a heart transplant. And my heart is 28 years younger than my body. So, you know, I've got the best of both worlds. But, you know, the one thing that has taught me, many things, but the one thing that stands out for me is this whole concept of what is possible. What is possible. Don't ask me to explain how our transplant happens. Don't ask me to explain how it is that somebody else's heart can beat in my body. I can't explain that to you. What I do know is that it has made me so aware of what is possible. I should not have been here. My old heart had stopped its function. Was diagnosed with end-stage heart failure. Here I am 12 and a half years later. And for me, that is why I'm an optimist. That is why I believe that in the face of whatever happens, you can still rise. And I want to say to you, we live in a beautiful country, but a country with many challenges. Do not fall into the trap of your country. It's your country. But have this optimism that it can rise, and it will rise because you are in it. You are the Dignity ambassador, and it will rise. And so let me end up with a story. Lucretia knows this story, she can tell it herself, but I often tell this story at the end of sessions. So it's a story of a young learner, high school learner, who became so despondent about what was going on around her. And kind of thought, you know, maybe it's better not to be alive. Maybe I want to go to heaven, maybe it's better there. And that night she had a dream. And in her dream, she was embarking on a journey to heaven. And so she made preparations and decided, okay, so tomorrow morning, let me pack in some things the night before, water, something to drink, something to eat, because tomorrow morning I'm going to heaven. So the next morning, very early, she embarked on this journey, and she walked, and she walked. And she came to a harbor, and took a ferry to a little island, you know, and then got there, and it was nice, but it wasn't heaven. So the next day, she took a ferry back, and walked, and walked, and walked, and walked, and she came to a place that looked it looked like her school. But it just looks so much nicer. The paint seems fresher. And she saw somebody who kind of looks like her principal. But this person is just a more friendly person. She almost wants to start hugging. And then she saw people who look like the teachers. But they look different. You know, they looked like they're there to help and they're there to encourage. And she saw kids who look like kids at her school. But these kids are just more upbeat, they're more positive. So I can go on and on with the story. The moral of the story is that this dream took her to a point and took her right back to where she came from. Now, in a way, our journey is like that. You came from your school with its unique challenges. And maybe there's a challenge that you're going to have to face tomorrow when you go back. Okay? And you're going to go back to your school tomorrow. You're going to go back to the same school that you left. You know, it's not going to be a new school. It's going to be the same school. But you know what will make the school different? You know what will make the teachers different? What will make the learners different? Is when you go back to your school and look at it with new eyes. If you go back and you look at your teachers with new eyes, you look at your fellow learners with new eyes, you look at the person who cleans the classrooms with new eyes, look at the gardener with new eyes. Because when you see them through new eyes, you will see them as people worthy of dignity. That's my wish for you. Go back, be different, but act differently as well. Do you want to say?
I think the key part of seeing the dignity in others is also seeing it in ourselves. And the one thing that we as young people, the big mistake that we make is that we often forget ourselves, and my own personal experiences are starting to flash back in my head as I do this. Now, unfortunately, we are in a world that is trying to tell us how we need to be, and the kind of people that we need to be. And the biggest mistake we can ever make is to listen to that world. And I identify as a Zulu person, but I also identify as a Xhosa person, but also as a Swati person. That's because my parents are both half Xhosa, and then my mom is half Swati, and then my father is half Zulu. And I often encounter people that tell me, you're a Joburg Zulu, therefore you're not proper Zulu. You can't be Xhosa, you can't be Swati. And it took me a long time to get to the point where I am now, where I'm very comfortable in my identity as a Zulu person, as a Xhosa person, and as a Swati person. Because this thing of having one monolithic identity that just stays forever not changing is something that's actually very foreign to our people. If you look at history, Zulu people, Xhosa people, Swati people, Zulu people were all one, categorized as Nguni people. So we all have these things that society keeps trying to put in front of us as barriers that are against us. When people speak about South Africans, I see the whole of South Africa represented in front of me. We have a lot of politicians in our midst that are trying to divide us by very superficial barriers. Do not let them do that. What they're trying to do is steal this country from all of you. The fact of the matter is that this country no longer belongs to people like us, to people like Stan. They've lived in it. They've seen places, they've seen things. This future belongs to you, and if you don't fight for it, you will have no future left for you. And I'm seeing a lot of colleagues that are leaving the country, and it makes me sad because they often come back after 2 or 3 years because the grass is actually not much greener on the other side. We're seeing it now with the likes of the Trumps of the world. We're seeing it now everywhere in the world. This is your home. All of you in this room, fight for it. But in order for that to happen, you need to know who you are. Know who you are, understand yourself, exist and exist fully. Fight for your identity, and don't let anyone take away your dignity. Because if you have that for you, you can then take it forward to other people. I've been truly inspired. And in conclusion now, I would like all of you to do something that Usizifo, for which I see sitting over there, taught me a couple of years ago. The likes of Uncle Kathy and Dr. Matiba weren't allowed to clap on this island because that would attract attention. So I'd like all of you to give yourselves a round of applause the same way that they would. I'm really hoping that Usizifo has taught you this. Stop clapping. This is what I'm going to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I just say one line?
If they miss their favorite,
just one line. My line to be given to somebody just to read a poem from Don Matera when he said, they've passed this way and touched our lives. Last night, I get into a room, there's a TRC movie. Lena, to tell you Desmond Tutu that people who were here at Robben Island, they have died for our dignity. So let us always protect it. So my line will be taken by this poem from this little lady who read a poem, just 2 stanzas or 1 stanza. I thank you.
Africa, Afrique, beautiful mother, beloved continent, this is your time, your moment, your century, etched on the golden scroll of history. Arise, take your place, claim your space. Let there spring forth fountains, the essence and vitality of new thoughts, new people, legends, and visionaries, forged in foundries of compassion and human service. Africa, this is your time, your century, your right. Africans, arise, unite. You are the architects of your fate, the victims of self-hate. Bring enlightenment, renewal, and dignity. No more sorrow songs, but anthems of victory. Astound, confound with unconquerable might. Arise, Africa, unite. Africa, unite. If somewhere in some distant desert sand, living hope must flourish, burst and cleanse the septic, heal the wounded silence of doomsayer, the septic, then now be the time to lift the fallen hand, now the day, now the century in sight. Africans, arise, unite, unite.